everyone. Welcome back to JP's Budget Collecting. Another episode of the Indie Show. Tonight we're talking Murder Falcon by Daniel Warren Johnson. And the reason we're talking Murder Falcon tonight is someone I know would not shut up about this book. Just yapping. You should read it. Murder Falcon. Yap. And no shock to who wouldn't shut up in that. This guy.
I got my Murder Hobo books right here. I'm ready to go.
No, not the one our other guests won't shut up about. The one you won't shut up about.
Oh, it's not Murder Hobo tonight.
No, it's Murder Falcon.
Murder Falcon. You mean the hardcover with the little like signed art card that came with it? I'm ready for you. The movie poster that I got up there. I don't even know if I can see it. With the movie poster at the poster up there. I'm ready for you. I'm ready for this.
Right.
My camera's crooked.
Hey,
there it is.
Another person that might actually be disappointed that we're reading Murder Falcon instead of Murder Hobo, Mr. Daymare. What's going on?
I came already. And
yeah, I thought
I think I'm on the wrong show. I got my figures too.
We can change it up, right? We can change it up.
Oh yeah, the figures. Yeah.
No.
Oh yeah.
You haven't sent me all of it yet, so no, we can't do that yet.
Oh, okay.
Actually, they were supposed to have the trade paperback out already, but they haven't. So
darn the luck.
And
then last, the person who agreed to do that with this group, I don't know what's wrong with him, but he agreed to join us.
I agreed when you said Murder Falcon. I didn't know who else was on the panel, and so I almost got sick, but I mean, come on, it's Murder Falcon. Let's go. Although I don't have the hardcover. I've never seen the hardcover. I need that in my life.
So I got the hardcover. I got the trade paperback. I got some of the single issues.
Yeah, I got issue 1 and I got the trade paperback.
I've got issue 1 somewhere.
Although I never got past single issues of 4, so I don't have 5, 6, 7, or 8.
Slacker.
That's classic John. He's like, guys, this is a great book. I'm picking up in singles. I'm stopping at 4. I'll get the rest later. But it's a great book. You got to read it, guys.
It's funny because I did it opposite. I heard about it, never got around to it, read the trade, liked it so much, I went out and just bought a little lot of fun variants, and I only got issues 1 through 4.
Okay. All right.
So I've got the B cover to number 1, the heavy metal variant, where he's like riding the Falcon with the chainsaw wheel, not chainsaw, but
yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we had GTT in here hanging out early as usual. Some old wolf guy who's, old and wolfy. And probably drinking just like John.
Also 65 years old?
65, yes. And then Unruly, who comments that, the reason he read this was because John wouldn't leave him alone. So
I think he meant to say that's why I love Murder Falcon. That's why I bought Murder Falcon.
If John talked you into reading Murder Falcon.
Yeah.
JP's hands raised. Yep. All right, cool.
Hercules.
All right. So given that you're the one that started all this, Mr. John, how were you introduced to Murder Falcon, and what was your initial impression?
It was some of the Instagram greats, guys like Fable and TM Nerdy, and some of those guys that really read a ton of indies and are trying different things out, and had been touting Daniel Warren Johnson a bunch as just this really great creator. And then I read Beta Ray Bill, and it was flipping amazing, like just so great. And I was like, okay, I got to broaden my Daniel Warren Johnson circle. And I've since kind of read everything I get my hand on that he's done, and I have yet to be disappointed.
Nice. Greg, we'll go to you because how would you, other than John just annoying you with?
I mean, it was John. And real quick, John, I want to ask: have you read Extremity?
I have not read Extremity.
I only asked that because it shows up on the back as Eisner nominated, and so like I've read all the stuff of Daniel Warren Johnson except for the Eisner nominated book. Apparently,
same.
So I mean, it literally I think was John. I want to say like No Good Comics. It was people that I just followed. I kept seeing it pop up, and I think there was a point last year, where I guess this year in the spring, where y'all were just posting about Murder Falcon a lot. And I was just like, all right, I want to check it out. So I bought the trade and then instantly fell in love and bought issue number 1 because I was like, that's kind of what I do if I don't have it. Because, yeah, I was exposed to Daniel Warren Johnson with Wonder Woman Dead Earth. And that was my first kind of reading into Daniel Warren Johnson. I was like, oh, this is unique. This is really cool. And now I'm backlogging, going back to check it all out.
Nice. Daymers, what about you? What was your, other than me asking you to be on this?
That's when I actually went ahead and bit the bullet and bought it and read it.
Yeah.
I had, gotten some stuff because I'd bought a bunch of Skybound boxes, and it being one of their properties. Yeah, like that coaster and the poster and
all my swag for this book came from this guy who has never read it, and he just sent me all this stuff. He's like, I got a lot of this, and he just kept sending me. I gave some of it away to people. Like, he just kept sending me this stuff.
I've still got a lot of the posters, and I've got some extended posters too.
Yeah, that's what he does sometimes.
So I'm really glad that he's on this panel, so that he had to read it, and then he could realize, oh wait, it's cool to hang those posters.
We won't go that far, but yeah. But, so
I just politely agreed and went on.
Yeah, you just nod your head and like, it's the only way to get John to stop. So yeah, it was like John just like kept, you should read this. Yeah. Then like he'd go a little while. Have you read that? Like, no, have you read it? So this is my first exposure to Daniel Warren Johnson. Like I had seen like the Wonder Woman Dead Earth stuff, and it just the art kind of like I was like, I don't know about that. And it didn't really. The people said it was good, but I never went back and read it. And so I had not read anything until I got to this. And like John's description of it and everybody talking about it I was like, okay, I don't know. It's like this rock something. It struck me as kind of ridiculous. And it's completely ridiculous and amazing. It's like, I mean, it really is. And so, yeah, so we talked about how you found it, but what were your impressions on your first read? I'll make John go last this time. Greg, what were your impressions on your first read?
I mean, I remember going the same thing as you, JP. Like, I hear the description of it, I'm like, oh, it's a heavy metal book, and like, holy buckets, like, they've got like creatures that come out and fight. They're, like almost like kaiju creatures that fight, like they're, I don't even know, like they're controlled characters that they control with their instruments. I was like, this seems like over the top, like just weird.
Oh, it is.
But it is, but it works in such a beautiful way because of the heart that Daniel Warren Johnson brings to the book. And I think if you were to take out those moments, it would be kind of a book where I'm like, I don't know if this is for me, but it almost is like it works so well together because it softens the moments a little bit. So it's like, and it counterbalances the over the topness of it in just this beautiful way that as I've started to read more of Daniel Warren Johnson through and through with like Wonder Woman Dead Earth, do a power bomb, like that's a talent that Daniel Warren Johnson has as a creator of, man. So I read it and I was going, I was hesitant at first, but I was like, I'm here for it. And I couldn't put it down the first time I read it. And I reread it again, prepping for this show, and I couldn't put it down.
Yeah. Adam, what about you? What did you think?
I really liked it. For one thing, I didn't know a whole lot of the premise going into it. I didn't know about the, essentially the kaiju monsters, controlling them and that stuff. I knew it was, about heavy metal and that type of stuff. That's about all I knew going into it. So I was kind of surprised. I liked it. And I mean, like Bearded was saying, it, the heart is in it, and that seemed to really shine through and make the story.
Yeah. For me, it was, it comes across as you think it's going to be this kind of silly, fun. It's hard. We're fighting monsters with rock and roll, kind of, and on the surface it is, but it's really not any of that when you get down to it. And I did not expect any of that because I hadn't been spoiled on what it was beyond the they got instruments and music and it's rock and roll and they have these things that they fight with and it's like, okay. It's got a lot more heart, like you said, than what I was expecting, and it didn't go necessarily the direction I thought it would. And it's very effective in the story he's trying to tell and the way he tells it. And so, yeah, I was, I had decent expectations because somebody had hyped the living what out of it, but
that's what
it lived up to it more.
Matt is saying the same thing in the chat. The theme of the night apparently seems to be, I checked it out thanks to John.
So are you sponsored by Daniel Warren Johnson?
I mean, I would happily, I never wanted to be sponsored by anything, but I will happily be sponsored by Daniel Warren Johnson.
Yeah. So, all right, John, you're the one that has sold half the community on this. What were your when you first read it? What was your impression?
I had the same reaction as you, which is why to Wonder Woman Dead Earth, which is why I skipped it. Like I had seen it and people were saying it was great, and I skipped it. Yeah. His artwork is very different, and I think that can be very off-putting to people. And it was perfect. It suited Beta Ray Bill, that story, really well. So I got into that, and then I was willing to take more chances with his work because of that. And then I did Wonder Woman Dead Earth, and I did this series, and I'm reading his Power Bomb series, which has a lot in common with this in the sense that it's about wrestling. I don't know anything about wrestling. I've never liked wrestling. I've never been a fan of it, but I'm so wrapped into that story because those characters are beautifully rendered. Like they're just full-fleshed characters, and I think it's the same here with Jake. I don't know a ton about heavy metal. I'm not a huge music guy even, but I can get so wrapped up in this story because Jake and his friendships and even the Murder Falcon character, they draw you in with such beautiful moments.
Yeah. No, they absolutely do. And so, yeah, it starts off like we meet Jake. Well, it starts off, we see a monster. And we
Kaiju first, man. Kaiju first.
We get Kaiju on the first page. And then we get, like, everyone's running from this thing. And we see this guy get out of his van with a guitar. And he's like, I don't need weapons, officer. I brought metal. And I'm like, oh, my God.
Right? You're kind of like, that first page, you're like, what did John get me into?
Yeah. What did John get me into? And then, he plays the music, and out comes this, like, Falcon man with a robot arm. And you're just like, what is going on? But what we quickly see is Jake is a guy who's alone and appears to have, like, made himself alone. Like, that he is cut himself off from the world. And, used to be in a rock and roll band, but doesn't play anymore. Doesn't, it's kind of like, and the friends that he still somewhat interacts with are trying to get him to, like, keep going, but you don't know really what's going on with him. And out of nowhere, he gets, attacked by a monster, and his guitar comes to life, and this Falcon emerges. So what did you guys think of this whole setup at the beginning? Greg, I'll let you go. You were starting on the, like, what did John get me into? What did you think here?
Well, I mean, because the first couple pages, it is kind of this, like, what is going on? Now, I will say I do read, like, the letters and things like that if it's in the trade. And so at least in the trade paperback I had, Daniel Warren Johnson wrote a letter before I read the comic. And
right.
So he kind of laid the groundwork of who Jake is and what he's going through to a degree. And so there was a part of me that was like, okay, there's going to be more. This story is going to be deeper than what it is because of that. So there was that, but it goes quickly too. And that's the beauty of Daniel Warren Johnson's artwork and writing style is he can pace a story really well. And it's just enough to intrigue you with the over-the-topness for the first 4 pages that then it jumps right into, okay, there's going to be more deepness to this story. There's You know, as they say in Shrek, like it's an onion, right? There's layers to this, and the more layers you pull, the more you're gonna freaking cry.
Yeah.
And that's where as soon as I basically read that page where it started to get more in the, seemed like it was grounded in the reality aspect of the story of his life and his struggles and what's going through and just the interactions that he had with the store owner. Even it was just, those were the little things where I'm like, I feel so connected to this story, and I'm still in the first issue, and these character development is really well done, and it's moving at a very good pace. Like it's, I feel so often we read comics and we're like, oh, I need more of this. I want more of this. And I was like, no, it was just enough of the over the top, the insanity aspect of the metal and the murder falcons and the kaijus. And then it's like, okay, but I'm also going to beautifully blend it with the heart. And you get that right off the first 4 or 5 pages.
Yeah. Damars, what about you? What did you think of this, how it kicks off here?
Yeah, same way. I mean, it it was sort of like, okay, well, that's, kind of interesting, but I don't know how that's going to, get me through this whole.
Right.
I'll read a few, issues or something like that.
I see Adam. I could see Adam getting through this first few pages and then flipping to the back. How much did I pay for this?
Son of a gun, that John.
John again.
He's gonna PayPal me $20 later.
Oops.
And then you start getting some character development and stuff, and some depth to the characters, and finding out a little bit more and more about them, and just really builds.
Yeah. What about you, John? What did you think of this kickoff?
I was definitely like quickly put off by like this whole thing it's just too silly. It's just too goofy, which I had a similar reaction to Powerbomb in the first issue of Powerbomb. I was like, this is just a little much. But I think each issue of that series, and much like each issue of this, peels back that layer, right? And you get it's just the setting. These things, the music and the Murder Falcon and the kaiju or the wrestling universe of Powerbomb, these are just the setting. And what makes this work are the characters and the way they're portrayed. I know we're going to get to Johan in a bit, but that's when I was sold. Like the second issue with Johan is when I really was like, there's something deeper here. It's not just about getting the band back together. There's something, and I couldn't, you can't put your finger on it as you're going through, but I think it's really well, and it's much like Powerbomb. There's a similar feeling that there's a bigger, there's more at stake here than a wrestling tournament or a band getting together.
Yeah. For me, it was really about, like, in the first issue, what really hooked me were just a couple of panels. And they're like the most subtle panels in the whole book. But where you get the light blue, you see the arm on the bed, you see the bag, you see her talking about him. And then obviously right at the end of the first issue, when they're sitting on top of the van and playing the music, and then you see again, and they set you up. I mean, it gives you they're setting you up to think one thing, and it is a complete bait and switch a little bit. So you think you know why he's sad. You think you know why he's given up music, like in this first issue, or had given up music. Not exactly true, as it turns out, but it's definitely. But that word for me was like, okay, there's going to be more to. That's what convinced me there was more to it than just the silliness of, the Falcon fighting monsters kind of thing. And then, yeah, I think, and I would have to agree with John, as you move into the second issue and as they recruit Johan, his whole reaction is, hey, you want to help us? And he's like, yeah, he's just so excited to, Jake's like, I know this is nuts. He's like, it's the best thing ever, but it has more to do with it. To me, like, even in that moment, I feel like it has more to do with that his friend has taken an interest in something.
Right.
And like, this is my opportunity to do something with him again, to get him, to me, that's the way I read it, more than, oh, we're going to fight monsters. It was more of, this is our chance to play together again and do the thing that we love again. And like, I just thought I thought it was so well handled, is the way that their conversation, because Jake's still reluctant. And yet Johan's like, oh no, you there's a crack. I'm splitting this wide open. We're doing this. What did you think about their conversation and interaction? I'll let John go first this time. I won't make him go last.
It's for me, it's all about, and I mean, I don't know how much of issue 2 you want to like rip into, but for me, it's the sequence in the cave, right? Yeah. Where they're together. The magic of Daniel Warren Johnson is he's like, Guillermo del Toro or some great filmmakers who can blend genres and come away with something way more meaningful than either of the drama or the fantasy that maybe they'd been playing with, but put together, the peanut butter and jelly makes something extra special, right? Yeah. And in this way, we have a powerful drama playing out in this incredibly fantastical story. But for me, it all happens in the cave when they go to get the guitar for his buddy Johan, and they get trapped together, and you see Jake have to apologize and own something. And I think this is the ongoing theme for Jake is I burned a lot of bridges and I owe a lot of apologies to these people that I truly do care about. And I have kind of wronged in some way. So you get to see him make amends with Johan, and it's a beautiful scene. Even though you don't fully understand what they're talking about, you can sense the emotion between the two of them when they're down there together.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he's basically, because it doesn't work. It takes them like connecting again before
you get another one of those panels like Greg was showing earlier, but now it's in a pink hue where you see them together. Right. And that's when it's like that song that we wrote together and they start, there's the emergency ward. And before long, it's now amends have been made, connections have been reforged, that kind of thing.
No. Adam, what about you? What did you think of this
giant mammoth?
It's so good, right?
Yeah. Oh, wrong way. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a great. It's this spread page, right?
Faster than a laser bullet,
louder than an atom bomb.
Yeah, I love. Yeah, he's just riding the mammoth. It's just so. And then just like the monsters come forward. Sometimes just keep playing.
Sorry, it's his bass guitar. It's not.
Bass. He's playing the bass. Yes. And Greg, what about you? What did you think about Johan and Jake and they're coming together here in this second issue?
I mean, again, it goes back to the character developments for me. Like when I started to see that relationship, you knew the relationship was fractured. And then as John was saying, as it started in the cave and, you talk about when they're trapped, but even when they're going down into the cave, they're having a conversation. And, knowing what we know now, as you read the book and kind of what Jake was going through, I feel like a lot of us sometimes would probably like, dude, lay off Jake a little bit, bro. Like, he was going through some stuff, but he almost like he doesn't let Jake off the hook because he even talks about like, you let us down, you missed the gig, that this was going to set us off. And it was interesting to see, like, I was like, okay, this isn't like just a fake relationship, right? Like, because true, real relationships, you are honest, you're deep, you're real with each other. And, whether someone's right or wrong, you call them out on the pain that they caused you. And that's the healthiness of a relationship. So you can grow and learn from it. And I thought when Johan was doing that, I was like, okay, this is gonna probably gut punch me at times. And it already had started to, and I was like, man, this is the beautiful aspect of where I think it can almost be too heavy of a book if you don't have the other aspects to kind of soften it a little bit. And it almost makes it better because of that, because it allows it to just flow in a storytelling that it's not a straightforward story. You're trying to, as I think Matt said in earlier in the chat, like you're trying to figure out what's going on. You think you're piecing it together. You're like, oh, I got this. And when those like, oh, rope-a-dope turns come, you're like, and he does. I've read this. I've read enough of his stuff, at least like I'm like he does this really well, and it's not. They're not in places necessarily to just like, oh, I have to end on a cliffhanger at the end of an issue. He's like, I know this is going to move the story in the direction that I want it to go, and it needs to go. So I'm going to place it here. And sometimes it's at the end of an issue, but other times it's like maybe earlier on. And I think he can. That's the beauty of when you are I'm assuming when you are the artist and the writer, you can take the time to tell the story that you want to tell.
Yeah.
And that's what he's doing here. And John and I both mentioned it multiple times. But I mean, that's what he's doing with Do a Powerbomb. I think they are very parallel, similar stories of the style of Daniel Warren Johnson.
Yeah. And I think what's effective here is, I think you talk about it, is like the Johan is like wanting to be there for his friend, but he's also, like you said, he's not letting him off the hook. It's like, no, you've like, I get you were going through some stuff and I was trying to support you, and you gotta like, we gotta work together.
You gotta let people help you.
You gotta let people help you. And that's really, and it comes through, and like, it's just really, really well done. This whole issue, I think, is just really well done. And so when you get to the end of it, we kick off 3, and at this point, they're still working on and we get more backstory. But again, like, at least for me, it was sending me down one road, like emotionally, what had happened to Jake.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not what happened. like to me, it's totally like, this is her diagnosis, and the start of 3, and that I'm just assuming that he lost her, and that's why he cut everybody off. Like the whole way I went through that, and we see that, like, so he sets you up for that, and then the other thing he sets you up for, you meet I guess now I'm blanking on her name, the drummer, Jimmy, and like you see like what. Them trying to survive after he missed the gig, and yet him feeling the betrayal, which you see on both sides of that. They brought in somebody else. And so what did you think about that little reveal of, how they handled that? And I'm going to let Adam go first this time.
I mean, you could definitely, they had it so you could see both sides of it. I mean, there's, you understand why they did it. You're, at least I'm still, at this point thinking it was his wife, you know. But yeah, you understand his frustration and their frustration. They missed their biggest gig ever, and they need to, if they're going to continue, they're going to have to replace him because he's unreliable, but it's his band too,
Yeah. Well, and go ahead, Greg.
Well, and you get Jimmy's dad.
That's where I was going to go.
That's where I was going.
This other piece that it's not just a selfish, I want the band to be better without Jake. It's I need the band to succeed because my dad has needs that I'm the one that has to fill.
Yeah.
I think. Go ahead. All right.
Go ahead.
I think that it's a beautiful way of telling life. That's happening, right? Because we're invested in Jake here. We don't know Jimmy very much until this issue, and we're invested in Jake. We're invested in Jake's pain and what he's going through. And I feel like a lot of us emotionally can side with Jake, especially if you've gone through what you're assuming Jake is going through. You're like, I get where he's freaking coming from. Like, cut the dude some slack. But I think what it is interesting is it shows Jimmy and what Jimmy is going through in life as well. And I think it's a very important reminder for us of we all are going through it in life. Like nobody is going to avoid going through pain and suffering and turmoil like this. And Jimmy, yeah, Jake's going through it, but Jimmy was going through it too with her dad and what she's dealing with. And so, and that dealing with that, how do you be there for somebody, when they're going through something and you're going through something as well? And then you're like, but you also are like, I've got to take care of mine. And part of taking care of my own is making sure this band goes on so that I can provide for someone that I care deeply about and make sure they're taken care of. So like it's a beautiful dichotomy of real life stuff, right? Like we're all going through things, and to see like the balance of, yeah, you might be going through something, but doesn't mean we can shut people out and treat them bad because they're probably going through similar stuff and then we might not know about it. And it was a beautiful way it was done for me.
Yeah. No, I thought it was super effective because like he sets you up over a couple pages of like, oh, Jimmy, like you're thinking like Jimmy did like this horrible kind of thing to him. And then, but immediately, even before the story's over, he's like, you don't know what it's like. And she's like, look who you're talking to. Like, and then you immediately see that, no, Jimmy does know. She does, like, she is going through the crap as well. And it's like, she's trying to survive just like anybody else. And if he's not reliable, then she's making a hard choice. It wasn't necessarily like forever, but yeah. And you get that understanding. And I love when like the monsters are attacking her. Then we immediately go to like him. And I love this reveal, like the silliness of them coming through the door. Hey, with a giant robot Falcon behind you. So we go and so we get Jimmy her drums. What did you think of the reveal of Jimmy's kaiju or whatever? I love how they just get bigger.
You mean the monster with the multiple boobs just swinging around?
Well, that's the one they're fighting, but yeah.
Which I was just like, like, is this a mother kaiju that they're fighting? Like, what is going on? It's awesome. I mean, the drum set on like a freaking like platform that rises with like rocket boosters. Like, let's go! Like, come on!
It's amazing.
Like, because you're like, how would you fight with us? Like, I get it. Oh, I can strum a guitar or a bass without and run around. You're like, but your drum set's stationary. No, not in this world. It's on a platform with rocket boosters.
Yeah. And I just, and I love how, like, Murder Falcon, which, is
Murph.
Like, Murph is always there to, like, help Jimmy. Like, sometimes you gotta let the drummer take a show. I love how he, like, knows the right buttons to push with Jake. And to help him ask for help when he needs it, and then take initiative when he needs it, and then let them go when they need it. And I just thought that was also really well done, like their relationship as well. And I love that she gets the moment at the end of the issue, just for a moment where her dad's like, "That was amazing. It makes me so happy," and before it, of course, slips back into,
the Alzheimer's comes back. Yeah.
The Alzheimer's like cuts off the moment, but she gets that moment at least for a moment before it, it comes back. Anything else with this third issue and Jimmy that you guys want to talk about as we're kind of just moving through this? But
it's just awesome.
Yeah, I think it's just the twists and turns. I think are just really well executed, and I think he plays with your expectations a lot as a writer. I think it's a fun thing to know that you are in the hands of a creator who has the skill and confidence to execute something challenging. And I think it's what worked in Dead Earth, and it's what worked in Beta Ray Bill. The big and little moments play stronger because of the person having the skill and the confidence to kind of make it play.
Right. Yeah. All right. So fourth issue, they're together. The band's all together, but they got to take on the biggest one so far, or what, and they go into battle. And it's being directly controlled by our big bad, which we Magnum Chaos. It was, Magnum Chaos.
Okay. Yes.
But we get the reveal here, which for me was, okay, it took me by surprise. That Jake's the one that's sick. And that it's as much about, he's lost his way. It's not that he lost her, it's that he's lost his way because he doesn't know what to do. Like he's lost hope to a certain degree. With the cancer diagnosis and everything else. And as a result, he's cut everybody off because he's lost hope, which allows Chaos to kind of like take advantage of him here for a minute and open up Earth to all of his monsters. What did you think about the reveal? Were you guys surprised? I was completely surprised. Yeah. Was everybody else surprised? Greg, will let you go first.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think most of us were reading it as like, oh, he lost his wife to cancer, like, and he's going through this stage. So like to hit that reveal, I mean, it hits, and again, it's not like, I feel like sometimes like writers will like try to like pull one past you just because they want to see if they can, but like this again, I think it just enhances the story and to what he was going through, and again how he shut people out, and it was so interesting to me of like reading this, because I went back and I checked. I read this in February. This is when John started the Murder Falcon train, and and this hits real. My dad was going through cancer for the past 5 years, and he was at the time, and then 4 months after reading this, it was chemo's not working anymore. 3 months later, and 2 months ago, he lost his life to cancer. And so now I'm rereading this again in a completely different light of, for me, like I'm going down to go be with my dad in August and for a whole month. And I wasn't doing YouTube. I wasn't reading comics. I wasn't talking to people. I was shutting people out. And I was just like, holy cow. Like, a comic is a reminder of like, how important it is to allow people to invest into your life and your friendships that you cultivated and created to speak into it, because a lot of people didn't know what I was going through because I didn't let them know what I was going through, because I shut them out. And like I'm reading this again and I'm just like, it was such an interesting idea to see like what Jake is going through and how he's processing it. And I think when you're losing someone, you process it different, but when it's affecting you, yeah, it just is it's a different take on it. So to see this just kind of dichotomy again that Jake's struggling with, and like, how do I deal with this stuff, and how do I deal with loss, and how do I deal with pain that I'm going through? It's tough, and it just shows the importance of, to me, and I'm not trying to bring down the show, but like to let people into your life and invest in.
It's going to be heavy.
Shut people out. Yeah.
Yeah. This conversation is going to have to get a little, I mean, it's the power and the weight of the underlying story here.
And he does such a good job of, how do you deal with stuff? Because I mean, I know John was doing a lot of stuff with the comic and cancer stuff. Like, cancer affects all of us. And so like, this is a powerful story. And man, it just takes it in. It's such an impactful thing.
Yeah. And it's so well done, like you said, because a book that has panels like this,
yes,
and yet has so much heart, and it's really a personal and emotional story, and it's showing you like the effects it's having on Jake, but it's also doing a good job of showing you the effects it had on the people around him, the people that care about him. And like trying to, it's not just Jake's story. I mean, it is Jake's story, but it's not just Jake's story. It's everybody. Like cancer doesn't like everyone is like when someone, everyone's affected, and it's the people that you love are just as much as can be are going through it too, and it's you get at the end of this issue, you get the reveal that he goes and knocks on the door, and
and I liked a little bit before that, where he had thrown his ring into the lake, and then that part of the lake dries up, and he picks up his ring and puts it back on.
Yeah,
and realizes he's got him in that bridge.
Yep.
Yeah.
Each chapter gives us another layer into the well that he's gone down, and the boy on seven's right. Like Magnum Chaos, that feeling of despair, hopelessness. That's what he's been wallowing in for so long that it's cost him so many great connections and relationships. And this series sees him trying to fix that.
Yeah. I mean, the panel where he knocks and she just hugs him, and it's just like he's cut her off, pushed her away, and yet, it's still there. And I just thought that it was super effective. You guys got anything? I don't know, John or Adam. Didn't give you a ton of time to talk about that one. What? Anything else you guys want to mention about that?
It's they've plotted it out, right? We had the bass guitarist, the drummer, and now we have his significant other. And I think each time we get a deeper understanding of what he's gone through to get to this place. It's that backstory is played into all the things that are happening, and the ring being the symbolic element that he's willing to go back to and not run from. Yeah. And it's just a great moment when you have the reveal that it's his diagnosis and it's his issues that he's trying to master.
Yeah. And I love we get the next issue kind of carries off with this, and it's her trying to figure out how she feels about where he's at, and that he's come back to her, and yet, she's dealing with to a certain extent, the betrayal. He pushed her away. He cut her off, and she's trying to figure out how she feels about him at this point. And I think they do a really effective job over this, and kind of the next issue is we get the other band, the surviving member of the other band, and her making the choice to kind of go with them, and to help. That she throws herself back in, and which is hard. I mean, to throw yourself back in, because she could have easily just said no, but she still loved him, she still cared, and I don't know. I just thought it was really their whole conversation and her choices here. To you're leaving already, and he's like, I gotta help them. She's like, what can I do? That she throws herself back in to try to help. It's this craziness.
Well, and I love that panel, JP. I don't mean to cut you off, but I love that panel that you just talked about where she was like, you're leaving already, and she just instantly just goes to face down, depressed, and you just see Murph kind of in the background of the next panel, and she's like, oh, hey, yeah, okay, what can I do to help? And it was just that because Murph and her had such a relationship earlier on in those issues of how often it is of you need someone to process what you're going through with, and it usually is better to not do it with someone that you're mad at or you're in the and usually it's a mutual friend. How often does that happen in our lives that we have a mutual friend that we're like, oh, did you know what so-and-so did? And that's what Murph is doing right now with Jake's wife, and I'm forgetting what her name is. I'm sorry.
I'm blanking on it too, and I can't find it in here in these.
But it's a beautiful.
And
it's a. What is it?
Yeah.
And
okay, yeah.
And it's just a beautiful moment, and that's where that panel that you mentioned, JP, where she's like, "You're leaving me already," and Murph just kind of was like, "Hey, no, just be there for him," and that kind of was like, "Oh, all right, here we go."
Yeah, and he does. And Murph is really effectively used as he's Jake's weapon to a certain degree, but he's really effectively used in trying to help balance the connections these people are making and help them find the connections help them reconnect the things that they've lost, and make those connections with each other again. And he does like he's written really well because he's not over the top. Like, he just helps them see what they need to see and when they need to see it. And he is very like, well, because he talks about it. He's like, because he's like, oh, he's fearless, and he's like, it's never been about being fearless. It's it's from the beginning of time until the end. There'll be pain and suffering. It's about bravery, even when the bad thing, how bad things can get. It's and I think he uses Murph really well in a lot of these little quieter interactions. Like Murph is just over the top. I showed the panel earlier with the guns and like blasting the monster away, and it's like. But yet he's used really effectively for me in the quieter moments when he's having those conversations.
He's like the Mr. Miyagi sensei with like the wisdom, but like then the Johnny with the beer and the rock and roll and the over the topness sometimes. Like it's a merging of the two people. Sorry, John, go ahead.
So good. No, I love the metaphor. Or that's an allegory, isn't it?
I don't know. You're the teacher.
This portion that you're talking about, JP, reminds me a lot of Beta Ray Bill, because there's a whole plot involving his ship and it being alive and his connection to it. And then there's these quiet narration kind of moments and that really hit. And the reason I think his books work is because he can make the quiet moments have so much weight that you don't need some huge epic battle to win your reader over. The beauty of Beta Ray Bill for me is the final moments, which I'm not going to spoil, but like the weight, the big fight, the big bad, destroying, the winning and defeating the villain is not the point. And you get to the end and you just are like, oh, that gut punch hits you and it's so meaningful. And I think it's the same here with those little moments.
For sure. Adam, you have anything you want to add in this part?
No.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm still a little out of it with my allergies.
No, you're good. You're good. So the next thing we meet is there are others. Like, it's not just their band. We get the reveal of the Whisperwood and Helmdar, and his giant tree-like, kaiju or fighter.
I am Groot.
Yeah, he gets his Groot. Him and Groot show up, and he goes with them to find the Horn of Death, which they're going to use to defeat the bad guy here. But of course, it's a trap. But I love his conversation with her. Once the others are captured. And his conversation with her, because he kind of judged her one way, and I just love, she's like, a front woman. She's like, well, I couldn't sing. He's like, sometimes you don't have to sing. It's not about singing. You just have to it's about. And this is where they really start. Like he really gets into. For me, like it's been that way the whole time. It really gets into the point of the metaphor of using music and the things that you art and to express yourself and deal with what you're going on and to lose yourself a little bit and to break the despair and the suck, and it really starts to this is where he really starts connecting that dot more than superficially of they're using music to fight monsters. Talking about it more on a personal level with her, and then they see him getting ready to, and you see her remembering those moments where he was struggling, but she was struggling just as much because she didn't know what she could do for him. And I just love the scream, and then the wolf just is like,
I get goosebumps. I every time just the spread page of that and the build up to it. I think Greg mentioned earlier the idea that a writer artist combo, a person who does all the work, has the ability to pace things differently, and I think it's the proof is in that sequence where you see the character and his it's like Hemjal. It's like Heimdall. It's a very Nordic name.
Nordic, Swedish,
sure.
They're like a Swedish rock band or what.
There's this other band, right? And they've lost all their members except the one guy, and he's controlling a giant Groot, basically, and they all get split up, and chaos is sort of raining down on the band. But this other guy, he looks like a member of Kiss. He's got the whole makeup thing going.
Oh, yeah.
He finally connects with Anne, and Anne tells her story, and he realizes what he's there to do, and he's there to inspire her to belt out this yell. And then you get this awesome, like, Hound of Hell moment where this wolf appears, like the big bad wolf, just screaming and shredding this beast apart. It's such a great moment. Might be my favorite moment in the whole thing. Just the buildup of that, the way the paneling goes in that sequence, the buildup of her getting closer to the microphone, and the reveal earlier on of him saying, nobody said you had to sing, like giving her the mic, and you're like, oh, and you see her walking up, and again, those alternating coloring pages, and now they're white, and it just hits, man. It just hits. That's it's like, it's so, I don't want to say cinematic because that cheapens comic books. It's just so, it feels like you're forced to read it the way they wanted it to be read.
And it's how he says it right before that panel changing that you're talking about, the dark to the light. He goes, if what you told me was true, then yes, that's what being a musician is. Taking the worst of what your life is and channeling it. I mean, how often do we see that in those documentaries or of musicians, or a sports figure who has the game of their life and their dad just passed away, or their whatever happened, and it's like it's taking the pain that you're going through, and how can I channel it into a healthier outlet that's going to allow me to experience something greater than what it that. And then so to see that build up like you're talking about, and then that panel of her screeching where you're like, and then even his interaction with her afterwards, he was like, was that you? Like, I didn't know you had it in you, kind of thing. And like, how often that's true, like when we know that and make it to better, and like how we don't even know the strength that we have in the midst of the pain that we're going through. Good golly, that's powerful stuff. And it's like, man, Daniel Warren Johnson, like, stop it. You gonna make me cry.
Oh, he pushes.
He makes me cry a lot in this book.
Yeah, he's pushing all the buttons to make you cry, for sure.
And we get to see then, of course, that the Kiss guy, Hajamdar, whatever, sacrifice himself to save the guitar, right? At the end there. This issue and the next both end the same way, with a new person sort of joining the band for a stretch. Yeah. And I love those fun splash reveals on the final page, but the sacrifice of this musician is a great sequence as well. And of course you see Groot like throw the guitar to them. And it's just beautiful. Really just that's, and I love how he writes the word throw. It's fantastic. It's so over the top, and it's just so still right on point, And
also catch whenever she catches it too.
Yeah. Yes, right? It's so good. I love it. And then, of course, so at the end, we get this Tokyo Philharmonic violinist standing at the dock there saying basically the same thing. I want to join your band, which is what we had at the end of the last issue.
I'm here to help. And and we get, and again, this is part of like expanding, like I talked about, like it's expanding beyond, it's not just melody, it's just music. Like at this point, it's like, because you get this classical harmonic, you're getting this orchestra that's also playing in similar worlds. So he's kind of like redefining this. This isn't about like just metal. This is about music, whatever form that works for those people. And so I think that it's a really effective addition that like to like pull together like no, it's not. I'm not talking about metal. I'm talking about music and like the way it makes people feel and the way it affects people. And you get this whole thing, and then where they're working to save Murph at this point because the guitar got damaged and the whole next issue.
Well, and to even go off that point, JP, to talk about the music aspect, I mean, we didn't even talk about, I think it's Nate, the shop owner, who a couple issues,
cowbell.
like, just hit the cowbell to come, and, you know, and, like,
got
and
a
in
fever.
the midst of that.
You only kill us more cowbell.
I need some more cowbell. I got a fever.
Cowbell.
Yeah, and, you know, and it talks, you know, and that sets it up of, you know, then the people that are then getting affected by this, that then are in the hospital with the parasite demon stuff coming off of the foreheads of them.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what aspect of music you like. I am not a heavy metal rocker guy. Like, I'm like, whatever. It just makes you like, oh, music. There's something about it. It speaks to you in a way, and then it's beautiful how he does it. Of it's all types, whether you like heavy metal rock or Swedish rock or, you know, Japanese violin. Like,
I love, like, in this when they're protecting, you know, Japan from this one, and I love the orchestra riding on a tank and a motorcycle and like a big rig, and it's just, you know, it's just so well done. Like just the dichotomy of, like, here's this classical orchestra and they're riding on a tank while they're playing and riding into battle, and
they create a giant samurai warrior to like fight the kaiju. It's like
they're just
so phenomenal. I think the only equivalent, the only equivalent I can see to Daniel Warren Johnson is people like Tim Burton and Guillermo del Toro, who are able to do over the top and not lose the emotional significance of the moment. You know, I think he just has a knack for balancing these seemingly disparate genres, and it works so freaking well in this dang book, man.
Yeah, it definitely does. Damers, what did you think of this section?
Oh, I loved it. You know, just the way that all the, you know, like John was saying, all the different musics come together. I mean, everything from, you know, guitar to classical instruments to a keytar.
Yeah, I love the guy carrying the keytar around.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, you know, it's just you know, whatever it takes, basically. You know.
Yeah. The keytar is just an amazing addition. Like, yeah, and the keytar, like, Foreman just creates like this series of guns as opposed to, but I love the reveal of the you know, the mech suit, the what are they, Gundam suit or whatever you want to call them, from like those Japanese anime
so
stuff.
Good.
Yeah.
So good.
So then you get, you know, we see Jake has been like having this whole, like, chaos has been in his head for a while, and he's like, oh, you know, and trying to get him to give up. And then he see, like, Anne, like, and how they pull him back, that he doesn't despair. And I love this moment. Like, you talk about the feels when Murph wheels him out in the wheelchair and he stands up. He's like, I'm scared to die. I really am. But thanks to you, I fear no more. And he takes off the wig. Like, that we didn't know he was.
Man, that moment, holy crap.
Right, because again, it's one of those moments where, like, we the way the story's going, we assume he's beat cancer, he's through it, and now he's trying to make amends. And Daniel freaking Warren Johnson's like, rope-a-dope you again? Like, nah, like, he's still going through it, and he's trying to figure it out through that. You're like, oh my gosh. Well, yeah, that reveal again, and I was just like, oh.
Yeah.
Son of a gun.
No, he just like, oh, no, it's not. Yeah, it's not. This is not his past. He didn't beat it and just cut everybody off and didn't know how to make amends. He's still in the middle of it. And
he's still in that.
What did you think of that, Adam? What did you think when he took off the wig?
Yeah, that was another big surprise that I was not expecting. I thought, you know, like everybody else, that he had sort of cut everybody out, as he was going through it, and then just never reconnected after he got better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John,
I mean, the wig moment, I was like, get out of here. God damn it. I was so like mad happy. Like, that feeling when you're like happy that a story was able to trick you, but also like totally pissed off. You're like, how did I not see this coming? Like, it was such a great, it's a great reveal.
I'm not crying, you're crying.
Yeah, man.
Oof. Yeah, I mean, it goes back to the whole premise with Magnum Chaos and the whole realm that they're coming from. They call it the heavy.
Yeah.
And like that just is like of dealing with the main villain there who's spending so much time when he touches Jake and is trying to just live into the heavy, basically, where he's trying to help no, like you're not through this, like don't. And it just is like it's such a beautiful allegory or whatever. I don't know the proper way to say it, like John said, of it's such a beautiful way of telling a story. Of like to just have some of those moments of like, yeah, when you're going through it, it feels heavy, and to have that, like, I mean, like you just can relate, whether you're going through it, whether it's cancer, whether it's going through, a struggling marriage, whether it's going through anything. Like, I think you could take out the cancer story and replace it with anything else that someone could be going through in the world, and people will go, I resonate with this story because holy buckets, life sucks sometimes, and it can get really heavy.
And JP said it similarly about, you can remove the cancer, or you could remove the music and you can replace it with something heavy and something artistic. It really, the allegory is like The Boy Who Had Seven says, music is the deepest expression of the soul. I would say art, right? And you can replace it with sculpture, painting, singing, like
comics,
poetry, writing, story, right?
Yeah.
These things are the deepest expression of this creativity, right? Is the deepest expression of the soul. And these are the things that make life worth living. And these are the things that are so meaningful beyond knowing how to send that email for work, or drive your kid to this thing and that thing. The mundane, you elevate beyond the mundane with those things.
Yeah. So this is bringing us to our climactic battle here, and I just like, again, the ridiculousness of
so freaking good.
We go from the panel,
okay,
heart-wrenching panel of him taking off the thing, and he started cancer.
And so I don't want to shout out No Good Comics too much, but that all I hear when I see that is I hear Top Gun, the music just blaring. It's all I hear, right?
$5 Dustin from Two Brothers Comics is gonna pop in here. Did you talk about Top Gun? You talking about that yet?
Yeah,
Maverick. Who's talking about Maverick?
Yeah.
Best movie ever, Tom Cruise. Let's go.
I just love that you get like, what is it, like 1, 2, 3 pages of story later, you get this panel.
It's so good.
It's so amazing.
It's just phenomenal.
But yeah,
and
so
the lettering though that he does right there, like, not to cut you off, but not him, Russ Wooten. The lettering that goes on in this, is fantastic. Like right there, like if you're looking at the pages where he takes off the wig, what's going on. Like if you want to talk about hearing a book, you hear this book to those speakers. To then the next page when the choppers are man, Russ Wooten killed it with this lettering.
It's hard to know where the lettering stops and the art begins, or vice versa. There's such a symbiotic relationship there.
Yeah,
like the lettering here is, and we didn't talk about that. Like obviously it's Daniel Warren Johnson's art, but the lettering and the coloring of this is just phenomenal. The lettering is so well blended into the story, and then you get like this huge like battle splash page of them playing and her screaming into the and just it's just so over the top.
Yeah.
There's kaijus and aircraft carriers.
I know I just posted something that Russ did about. I'm trying to think what else Russ lettered, because I know he did something else recently, and I was like, "Holy buckets, this is great!"
The fact that you know letterers and letterists and can identify that, you're on a different plane, my man.
Oh man, that's gonna drive. I'm looking. I'm talk amongst yourselves. I'm looking.
Go take over. You get onto your Instagram.
You do it. Figure it out.
JP, Deadly Class. He lettered Deadly Class. That's what it was.
Okay.
We just talked about last week. That's what it was. He lettered Deadly Class. Which
you do more
fantastic.
than one show with Greg? Yikes.
Well, I know, John. That's usually reserved for you, but I do have other people I try to do stuff with. Yeah.
I don't share.
I'm free up since John doesn't do shows with me anymore, so I have more free time. So JP's like, "Hey, I know you don't do anything with John anymore. You want to hang out?" I'm like, "All right."
Pretty much.
John's gonna be there. Damn it!
No, well, I didn't tell him that until after he committed. So
I like.
Go ahead.
They're going into the horn.
Oh yeah.
Oh, so good.
You got Lemmy there from Motorhead.
Yeah.
From the Ace of Spades.
And so they make it to the horn. Murph and Jake make it to the horn, and of course the bad guy shows up, and Murph's holding him off while Jake has the whole thing of him like tiny at the bottom of the stairs, and he's like, "Oh boy." And just gotta, and thinking about being that weak, that like a staircase is just like this daunting thing that he has to overcome. It's like, in some ways, it's you see him at the top, and he's like, "You can do this," like almost there, and you just think about. Like, we don't even think about stairs, like being, I do. I'm old. I'm getting old. So now a big long skeleton thing is staircase is like, oh, but stairs are just something that we do. And then, that becomes just this huge challenge. And,
it adds so much to the earlier stuff in the book where we didn't know he was still going through chemo treatments, I'm assuming. Yeah. And how draining that is on a body, and how much punishment it takes, and like that he was doing so much at the beginning that he basically exerted all his energy, that now he is, wheelchair bound, and that stairs are so daunting because it takes so much out of someone when they're going through it.
Yeah,
sucks.
So, and you get to the thing that he does, like, he manages to blow the horn. And then the best couple pages, for me, of the whole book, is the realizing, because they think it's like, they thought it was going to summon the dead back to, like, and just this whole moment of, the horn doesn't call the dead back to life. It calls all those destined to die and are still choosing to sing into the void. And if that doesn't, like, wreck you, like, as I was reading that, and ultimately that's what this is about. It's about finding a way to live through whatever it is you're going through, and connect with people. And it's just so well done. Like, the setup here, all of it, it's just, ridiculously well done.
Sorry.
Go ahead, John.
There's a play that was made into a very popular movie called The Lion in Winter. Great cast. Anthony Hopkins is he looks like he's 12 years old or something. He's really young, Anthony Hopkins. And it's about, British royalty and betrayal and murder, War of the Roses kind of stuff. And at one point, two of the brothers are they were captured, waiting to be killed. And one of them starts begging and whining, and the other brother, tells him like, why are you, wasting your last few moments like this? And the brother says something like, you fool, when, he said, what does it matter? He says, what does it matter how a man falls? And he says, when the fall is all there is, it matters.
Yeah.
Right. That idea, if you're going to go out, how you go out matters, right? Giving all you've got when you've got it, it's just I was reminded of that quote reading this, and it's I think it's so meaningful because it's so true.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I mean, and you see that he, like, at the end here, after they defeat the bad guy, and Murph's like, we did it. And then he, like, Jake, and then you get just, the devastation of, it's Jake had to, and really it's all about him finding a way to take advantage of the last moments that he has and reconnect with these people that he kind of cut off before he goes on. And
also, they used Ronnie James Dio.
Yeah.
For the.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't know who that is. Did I fail the test?
The singer.
This is
Okay.
It makes sense. John says he's not a music person, so
he's just a musician that
he died in 2010.
Yeah.
He fronted Black Sabbath after Ozzy and done his own band and stuff. So he's
See, I'm learning something. Oops. I mean, I did say the face looked familiar, but I thought,
it took me a minute to place who he was too.
Yeah. And then, of course, we're not done. We get the little flashback to how they got the jetpack drum set. And, and then we get them, like, dealing with after he's gone. And we see him continuing to, without him, to continue playing on. And, it's just stupidly well done. It's just like the whole thing is, you start off and you're expecting this kind of silly concept. It's a metal band fighting monsters, and it's like, what? And it's none of that. It's living through. I mean, it's really a story about living through the pain and living through, singing into the void as you just continuing to live no matter what's going on and not giving up. And so you guys got any other thoughts you want to share?
Man, those last 2 pages, it hit when I first read it, but it hit just so much differently for me this time, because Jake's trying to go through these moments where he has last words with people that he cares about, and how sometimes you're, in a morbid way, like, you're blessed that you can have those moments where you can have the last words with people that you don't have. And there are times where you don't get to have those, and you replay it in your mind of, what would I have said? What would I have done? And so to just have gone through that with my dad, to be able to be like, man, like, as I'm, sitting beside his hospital bed in his house, like, and, we're watching Field of Dreams, which was our movie. I'm like, and it just randomly came on TV. I'm like, this is a moment that we can have, and we can have some conversations, and, Jake doesn't he kind of gets to have it, but he doesn't, because it's like, he's passing. He's like, will they hear me? They're like, in their dreams. And, Jake's just trying to process, like, what would he say to the people that he cares so deeply about? And what would he say? And it just makes you think of it freaking goes deep in mortality and things of, like, what would I do? What would I say? If I knew I was going to pass, what would I say to my wife, my kids, my people closest to my circle, my band? And, man, freaking Daniel Warren Johnson, stop it! You playing on my heartstrings.
Well, he does, and his message is basically like, go on, you just keep going. It's really what he's telling them, and that's what you see at the end here is that they do, that they, despite the pain, and that they keep going on. So, Adam, what about you? Anything you want to?
No, that pretty much covers it. I mean, I can't pick out all the guys that he had in the scene there, but there's several.
Oh yeah,
heavy metal people that have passed on. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, you're good.
Hold that up. Time out. That is not the last page in the trade paperback.
No, it's not, because I don't think the trade includes the little one-shot thing.
Oh,
I like, because JP, you said something about the drum set, and was like, what are you talking about?
So yeah,
this is the last page of the trade paperback.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay,
yeah, you're missing.
So
basically,
the next thing is called Those Days. It's like a little short one-shot.
I didn't even get. So I was about to message you off screen because I didn't want to call you out. I'm like, where are you talking about the drum set?
So yeah.
Good golly, son of a gun! I gotta go buy a hardcover now.
Oh yeah, because there's this, like this part where they're sitting around all sad and stuff, and they're saying, "What was the line? If Jake were here, what would he want us to be doing right now?" And you see them all plugging in their instruments.
Yeah. See, that's beautiful, and I don't know that.
And then it goes to them just her just screaming and them jamming out, and then the background is him and Murph. And
I was pumped when these came out. These hardcovers, they're oversized, and if you ordered, like if your LCS ordered enough, they came with a little autographed art card.
So now I'm gonna just have to find a place to buy this.
It's on Amazon, is where I got mine from.
Yeah, I just got mine off Amazon. Or no, I got mine through Insect Trades, I think. Yeah.
Is that the cheaper trade place that you do use?
Yeah. But you can get it. I don't know that this one was that much cheaper there, but yeah, it just was part of an order I made. But
I mean, cover price on it's $30, so it's not too bad.
So, but yeah, like, and then the back of the hardcover is like,
well, plus it's got a ton of
covers and art.
They have the back covers in the trade, but I when y'all were starting to talk, I'm like, what are you talking about? All the people, I'm like, I think I'm missing something. So I'm glad you showed that, Adam. I was like,
some of the original layouts.
It hits just as hard as the ending of the regular issue.
Good God, I don't want to have to read this again so recently. I'm like,
well, you can just read the last little part and add.
And that's not going to affect me at all, JP. No, you're right. No, just read the last part. Well, it looks like Matt and I both have to go pick this up now. Then.
Yeah. So, John, what about you? We hadn't got to your thoughts on how this wraps up, how this ends.
I mean, I'm just glad that more people are finding it, that more people are interested in it, and more people are looking into it. It's for me, it's like Silver Surfer Black or any, like Tradmore art. Like it's stuff that people overlook sometimes because it's not mainstream. It's not typical. It's not the normal art style. It's an unusual story. And I think sometimes you get something special. And I think Daniel Warren Johnson is just a prime example of somebody who is supremely talented on so many levels. And whether you're picking up his Beta Ray Bill, which, okay, Marvel, I know you're listening to JP's channel. Where is my hardcover oversized Beta Ray Bill? Because that floppy, cruddy paperback is not doing it. It's lame. You do better. That you see that Wonder Woman Dead Earth volume is stupendous. This Murder Falcon is spectacular. I'm sure the Powerbomb hardcover is going to be glorious.
I can't wait.
It's all there. It's all, and for those of you wondering about this artist, this writer's other work, just go find it. Like, it's all out there and worth it, except for apparently Extremis, which Bearded and I need to get on right now.
Apparently, Slackers.
Have you read it, JP?
This is the only thing I've ever read so far.
So the next volume of this show is when we all get together to read Extremity,
and then we're gonna get together and talk about Do a Powerbomb.
And Wonder Woman Dead Earth and Beta Ray Bill when they
I'm
do
in.
the hardcover.
We're done. This is a Daniel Warren Johnson panel.
We'll have to follow up on that then. So
we will. Don't worry, John.
This will be the Daniel Warren Johnson crew.
There you go.
And then one day we'll get Daniel Warren Johnson to join our crew as we talk.
Sponsored by Daniel Warren Johnson.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate it. And Matt's like, do it.
Right.
All right.
In better shape.
Final thoughts. If you got any final thoughts before we close out of here, I'm gonna make John go first. So
I was gonna say, I think I just did it.
Okay.
My final thoughts are: I think read more Daniel Warren Johnson stuff. You won't be disappointed. There's lots of great oversized editions, except for Beta Ray Bill, that you can read and enjoy and are worth the time. Because as much as I was disappointed by my initial glance at Wonder Woman Dead Earth, it became a volume that I just absolutely loved. And it's just because you look at Diana, you expect her to look a certain way, and then Daniel Warren Johnson's vision for Diana is not mine.
Yeah.
And once I'm able to get past that, it's immensely enjoyable. And same with all this other stuff.
She looks like a character from Do a Powerbomb.
Yeah.
I mean, legitimately, the daughter. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. That's
Adam. What about you? Final thoughts?
I was pleasantly surprised. I expected it to be not near as deep and moving as what it was. I expected, something much lighter.
Yeah.
I mean, it was still an easy read,
mm-hmm.
but it had so much feeling and stuff packed into it.
Yeah. Greg, what about you? Final thoughts?
Well, first off, Adam, John should ship you back all the stuff from Murder Falcon now, because now that you've read it, you probably want it back. So, John,
I think I have some more coasters, and I know I've got about 15 posters or so.
I think my impression of Daniel Warren Johnson was the same as all y'all. I kind of was hesitant on Dead Earth. Was the first time I read Daniel Warren Johnson. And I was like, I don't know about the art style. And it was just a refreshing reminder to me of, I put off reading Batman The Long Halloween so long because Tim Sale's artwork was just different enough that I don't know if I was like, I don't know if this is for me. And then when I could get to read it, I appreciated it so much.
That's another great example, like Tradmore. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
It's just those people that can get easily dismissed.
Which is also ironic because I talked Long Halloween with JP on his Gotham City Chronicles channel.
Yeah.
But if it's art is different than what you're used to, and people are telling you to read a story, trust me, you're gonna like it, and you go, I don't know about this art, give it a chance, because I think because the art works for what Daniel Warren Johnson, his style and his storytelling, but it's so different than what we're used to. And especially if, like John said, you're going into it with this isn't my Wonder Woman. This isn't my Beta Ray Bill. Holy bucket. So maybe start with a Murder Falcon, start with a Do a Power Bomb, where you can go, oh, yeah, wow, this is great. So this was just a good read. Daniel Warren Johnson has become a creator of mine. If I see Daniel Warren Johnson on a book, I'm buying it, the first one, without a doubt. And I think the only one where I'm like, was Jurassic League, but I don't even feel that was a Daniel Warren Johnson book. It was kind of him co-writing with someone else, and he's bringing them along to kind of give them the light. But again, I just man, this, if you haven't read much from DWJ, do it, because this is good. And I'm so excited that there's books out there, because he did a Ice Road Truckers kind of style book or something too before with Image or something that I haven't read. And I'm like, there's more Daniel Warren Johnson goodness out there in the world that I haven't read, that I can't wait to read. And I haven't even, I have the Beta Ray Bill trade right there. I haven't read it yet.
And his stuff reads exceptionally well in that format. So for people that are like, it's not about the collectability, it's about the story, his stuff is perfect in trades.
Yeah. And also, if you haven't been picking up, because I think it's on issues, I think issue 6 comes out next week, or issue 7 of Do a Power Bomb.
Yeah.
It's either 6 or 7 of 8. go back and get all those issues. Like, don't even wait for the trade, gang. Like, I'm telling you, Dual Powerbomb is so good. And like, I'm a wrestling fan. John isn't. It's just good. Just go read.
It just hits, man. You don't have to be a heavy metal fan to like this, and you don't have to be a
Daniel Warren
wrestling fan.
Johnson. Like, gosh.
Yeah. I will say I'm in the group that would probably give away the single issues for some of these just to have these nice hardcovers. And
that's fine.
And because I enjoy reading, but at the same time, I'm buying the single issues because I don't want to miss anything.
Right.
I want to be there right when it drops. So that's how good of a creator he is.
I'm buying the singles. I will buy the trade, and then I'll buy a hardcover if they do it later. That's why I'm going to buy the hardcover of Murder Falcon. Gang, I'm going to do the same with Dual Powerbomb. So like,
collect them all.
Do it.
Okay. So my final thoughts was like I was expecting, like I said at the beginning, like ridiculous fun sort of thing. This is it is that, but it's not that at all. And it is so much heavier than but it's just really well balanced and it's really well done. That the silliness, the over the top stuff fits so well even in this deeper and more personal and somewhat tragic yet inspirational story that he's telling here, and it's worth it. I really hate to say this, and I'm going to mute him before he can respond, is John was right on Murder Falcon.
Oh, it feels so good.
All right, and now I'm putting him backstage before he can say anything else.
But good golly, how good does that feel? Like,
Worth
right?
it.
How often do we recommend a comic, not even a comic, but a restaurant or a movie to someone, and you're just like, you got to check this out, and then when they're like, oh, that was garbage, you're like, oh, like a part of you dies.
Oh, yeah,
like when they're like, oh, it was so good, you're like, yeah. Like when John read Human Target, that hardcover of part 1, I was like, I told you you were gonna like it. I knew you would like it. Son of a gun, you didn't. You're like, oh, I'm gonna wait for Tom King
funny.
in single issues. Like, but you're gonna like it.
And I will tell you, like, I've recommended a few movies to my daughters and watched them with them, and they're kind of like this in the sense that like you think you're getting one thing and then it like hits you with the feels at the end, to the point now where my daughters are gun shy to me, and they'll be like, "Is this gonna make me cry?" Like they'll ask me before we watch, you really recommended this movie. Is this going to make me cry? I don't want to watch a crying movie today. I don't want to watch a crying movie.
No. Where the red fern grows is perfectly fine.
Right. Finding Neverland is a very cute story about Peter Pan.
My Girl is a great movie about true love with teens.
And bees.
Old Yeller it's wonderful about a kidman song.
Batman Forever is a great movie.
I'm the nicest dad, though. I will not let them watch Neverending Story because I don't think my daughters can handle that.
Betray you.
That's a traumatizing film moment right there.
Yeah, it let you down because it ended.
Finding Neverland.
I can cry just thinking about Finding Neverland. I don't even need to watch the movie or hear the music.
The musical?
Yeah.
No, I don't need this. I don't need that extra layer.
No,
it's another great layer, though. Watch it. I'm just telling you, John. You're a musical guy. Watch it. It's fantastic.
All right,
the music's great.
Dang it.
All right. Well, we are in an hour and a half.
So yeah, this was the show that JP's like, nah, we'll get you out of here in an hour. Don't worry about
it. Well, you told me we didn't have to worry about that, so I didn't cut you guys off. I let you keep talking.
I was wondering about that because I was like, I don't know if I can talk about Murder Falcon in an hour.
Not possible.
So. All right. I want to thank Matt, Bobby, Tony, Unruly that was here earlier, everybody that hung out with us tonight. I appreciate it. And yeah, if you have not read Murder Falcon, go read it. And there you go. I gave a recommendation that John gave, guys.
And we'll see you back here for the Daniel Warren Johnson reading group soon.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Later, everybody. We'll see ya.